Okay, so I've run in to this problem a couple times, so I thought I'd go ahead and talk to you about it, and it also reminded me about something else. Um, this app is designed to try to be as realistic as possible, and sometimes I forget that. And what that means is at some point, the paint will dry, and you'll notice it'll thin out, and you'll feel it that it's starting to, it won't be able to blend anymore. And there's ways you can remove that in the settings. I prefer it. Like I said, I'm using the oil brush. You don't necessarily want to do that with other things, like ink. You probably want your ink to dry right away. But So that was one thing. Remember, if you're using oil at some point when it stops smudging, you're not going crazy. The paint has just thinned out as much as it will spread. Um, the other thing is that, and especially with oils, is I started in my blending in my background, I started getting my colors really kind of muddled. And it was getting way too dark in the background, and I didn't want that. And so I went ahead and I added my reds and added some splash and whatever and blended it out. And it happened again over here. I'm starting to get muddled. It's just kind of a nasty color, and it doesn't really make sense. The pear is now kind of floating around and what have you. So I wanted to show you just how easy it is, and because I remember I started getting frustrated where it was like, oh great, now I have to do the whole background over again, you know, because I was and am an undo uh, maniac when it comes to digital art, and that's a downside to digital art in my opinion, because there's been a lot of pieces that I know you and I have both done where it got better because we messed something up, and instead of giving up on the drawing we just worked with it, and it ended up coming out really great. And you lose a lot of that when you can undo. So anyway, so I got this muddled, and I just wanted to show you how really easy it is to fix something like that instead of just getting downtrodden or whatever. So I know it's muddled and I know it's too dark, and I don't like that. I'm going to bring up my color palette if I want. But I'm actually going to go back to my little pinned thing here because I want some of the pear color to be involved. So I'm going to steal that red. Okay. And that's like a brownish red. Let's see if you see that it popped up. And I like that. Back to the ink brush. Now I got my oil brush on. Alright, there we go. So you can use that as the dark bit down here a little bit because I want some of that pear to come in. That needs to be darker, so I'm going to lift my finger so it cleans, and then it'll add it on top instead of blending it so much. Alright, that's kind of good. And I said earlier too that I do want this side to be bright because obviously my light source is coming in from over there. So I'm going to go back up and I'm going to steal some of this dark real quick so I can hit this bottom so we kind of round it out. Alright. And I'm going to blend this just a little bit. I want to add, got a little hole here, so I'm going to add that just kind of right there just to make it easier for when we're about to do all this blending. Okay. And then I've got my yellows up there too. And I like this really bright yellow, but don't want any of that green. I decided I didn't want that green except for in the pear. So I'm just going to kind of steal some of this yellow here. And then I'll just kind of lighten up this area that we got. I like that red right there around the pear, so I want to leave that. But I just wanted to add a little more light on that side. And that's good. Good example of a glop. It really does look like a glop of paint, doesn't it? It's pretty cool. I'm going to undo that, though. It's a little too much ink for me to blend. Alright. Then I'll go back. And because I want this to kind of stay the color it is, I'm just going to play with it and blend it out kind of in its own little area without smudging it outside too much. I do want this dark to come down here, though, so I am going to stretch that out. See that stretching out. And another thing that I did was I had shrunk my size down a little bit. The larger is great when you're doing those edges, but because I want to try to keep some of the colors within themselves and not just make them whole new colors. So I'm blending some of this out. And I want to keep that light. So I'm going to blend it outwards. Now they're starting to melt again. And because I want this red still, I'm going to blend it outwards towards the yellow. So then I have just that little bit of definition behind the pear. Bring that in. So I can get up closer so you can kind of see what happens. Because I'm using that watercolor kind of style. And this is really strange to do because I'm actually looking directly through my phone screen here. So it's going to be interesting. Oh, see, I started bringing that dark in where I didn't want it too much. Bring some of that yellow back down. Now I'm going to make it a little bit bigger just to kind of smooth out some of that stuff. So I'm going to make it bigger. But then I'm going to take the pressure down so it's not as strong. So that I can just make it... All these edges are really kind of soft over here, so I want to kind of keep that. So it's going to take longer to do it because I lessen the pressure, but I have more control because I can do it kind of over and over and over again. So that was that part of that problem. And see, it's not muddled anymore. Let me move that away. So let's see if we can get that. There we go. Yeah, you got the app. Alright, there we go. Now it's starting to work because I got it big with a little less pressure on it. And then I'm going to do a little less pressure. So it's really nice and soft so that I can just come in here and just rub. Oh. There we go. Now I can rub. Oh, it still wants to reply to you. I will reply to you in just a second. Ah, damn it. Alright. There we go. Okay, there it is. Now it's starting to soften up a little bit. Alright. And you get the idea. I'm going to go ahead and send this part to you now so I can reply to what you just said.